Yo! What is going on? How's everybody doing today? I hope that you're doing good. It is a beautiful day today. It's a little bit overcast, actually. It's usually kind of sunny during the end of July here in Vancouver, but yeah, it's a little bit overcast today, and we are just chilling out. It is Monday, July. What day is that? The 28th. So Monday, July 28th. We're at the end of July. We are about to be in August, which is pretty much my favorite time of the year. I really love the beginning of fall. You still kind of have the temperature-ish of summer, but you get the beautiful leaves on the trees. I'm a big fan of maple trees. There's a lot of maple trees here in Vancouver, and I don't discriminate either. I got a beautiful Canadian maple. I got a couple beautiful Japanese maples. I got a couple of... I'm just a maple kind of guy. I love the maple trees in the fall, so I'm pretty stoked on that. But, yeah, what's going on? How is everybody doing today? Happy Monday. Happy end of July, beginning of August day. Next episode will be in August. And so happy that time. And I hope that you are doing well today. And I'm doing pretty well. I'm going to take a little sip of coffee here, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. So if you got a drink, if you got a water, if you got a coffee, if you got a protein shake, if you got a pre-workout, let's rock and roll together. Let's take a sip right now. Amen. Hallelujah. Alrighty. What is going on? I hope that your day is going well. I know I've said that a lot of times, but that is basically just kind of what I say when I start an episode. And when I'm trying to think about, what it is I really want to talk about, I was just talking to somebody the other day about this topic, and it's one of those topics where it pisses me off a little bit when I first hear about it. I kind of am somebody that, I'm one of those guys where it's really difficult for me to wrap my head around things. If I can't touch them, feel them, see them, I'm a very tangible, physical kind of guy. And so my brain it works in very literal, very binary, very simplistic ways. I've got one of those simple, maybe smooth brains. And so when I hear people talk about things like identity and, manifesting and all of these different, I don't even really know, like even things like, like yoga or red light therapy, I had to be, really like anything like that is just like, really, how is this positively impacting my life? I can't wrap my head around things that I'm not used to, that I don't really know a lot about. And so this idea of identity, I don't know if you guys remember, if you were listening about a year ago or so, maybe even longer than that, I went on a tear just thinking about identity all the time and what this concept was. I really couldn't wrap my head around it, and I still am struggling to, but the way I really think about it now is that, I guess what I really wanted to talk about today, let's try that again. I guess what I really wanted to talk about today is, this idea that we have to be very careful about what we attach our identity to. And I was always kind of in the camp of people that, thought about when it comes to our internal thoughts, or even just anything in the world, I guess, that we really couldn't choose what our identities were. And so I really was like struggling with wrapping my head around what people were even talking about when they thought about that kind of thing. And I guess what I should start with is clarifying what I mean when I say, you should be very, very cautious about when you're identifying as something or like with something or whatever it is, because, when I think about identity, I think about it's kind of like how you view yourself, how you think of yourself. What comes to mind when you think of, who are you? If somebody were to ask you, who are you? And then obviously, for me, I kind of think about the preliminary, I guess, round of trying to figure out what that actually is through the process of elimination. And I go, well, is that a permanent thing? Is that something that can be taken away? Because if I consider myself to be, I don't know, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, or actually, no, that's not a really great example. Let's say I consider myself to be a guitar player. I don't, but let's just like consider that if I were to attach my identity to that, you know, then I'm also a carpenter, and there is a chance that one day when I go to work, I might lose a finger. I might lose two fingers. I might lose a couple fingers. And what if I lose all my fingers? Do I still consider myself a guitar player? You know, those are just, again, I get that that's kind of dramatic and very extreme, but this idea of like, what is this part of my identity that I'm rooting myself in, or you know, that I'm choosing to identify with? Could it be taken from me? And then you know, if it can be taken from me, is it really who I am, or is it just something I do, which is it's fine. It's just a different thing altogether. And so for me, that's kind of the one of the first things I think about when I think about identity and this idea of identity. And then really just dialing in on really thinking about like the idea that we should just be more cautious when identifying with these things, because when you identify as something or with something or whatever, and that does, you know, get taken from you, if it does ever, then you've kind of left yourself to be in a little bit of a sticky situation, I would say, you know, because you're basically just left wondering, well, if not this, then what really am I? You know, if that could be taken from me by unforeseen circumstances, because it's not always something that's like predictable, but it's like, if that could be taken from me, is that really who I am? Obviously not. Well, then who am I? You know, what am I really? I'm just like floating through this world, wandering through this world. And as we think about identity, obviously, like for me, the first things that come to mind are like my occupation, my hobbies, the people I see, my relationships, I guess, the people around me. You know, who am I in relation to them? Well, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then for me, I think about like occupation, I think about the hobbies, the behaviors. But really, what it comes down to is this idea that you are not what you think you are, and you're not what others think you are. You're somewhere in the middle. And realistically, what you really are is what you practice being on a daily basis. And that could be something that like, you know, I'm a positive thinker. I'm an optimist, maybe. You know, that's just an example of like what you could think that you're a positive person. You can think that you're an optimistic person, but what are you practicing doing on a daily basis? Are you consistently bringing up problems? Are you consistently complaining? Are you consistently trying to look for solutions? Are you consistently trying to calm people down? Or are you consistently adding to the anxious, stressed out energy? You know, you could think of yourself as a stoic person, but do you allow your emotions and to be the dictators of your behaviors, of what you do on a daily basis? There's this idea that, you know, you could have this idea of yourself, and there could be other people that, you know, maybe think because they only see who you are around them, they have this idea of who you are. And obviously, there's all these other aspects of your life and your personality that they don't know about. And so there's this idea that you think you are, who you think you are, what you think you are. And then there's this other idea of like what other people see, and that's based on obviously like what they hear about you, and that's probably or what they've seen from you, and that's probably derivative of your behaviors and your actions in public. And so like obviously, like I said, you're not who they think you are. You're not who you think you are. You're actually who you practice being on a daily basis. And what you do on a daily basis is more reflective of your identity than anything else that's surface level, literally surface level. Some people identify as their race, their fucking whatever they are. And I think that it's more useful to judge somebody, you know, based on what they do, how they practice themselves. I don't care how they think of themselves. I don't care how they can explain who they are. I care about, you know, how do they make me feel when I'm with them? What is their actual impact or on my life or other people's lives? Oh, they're helping people. Oh, they're putting smiles on people's faces. Well, then I think they're a good person. And everyone's going to have different metrics, but it's just so interesting how we voluntarily tell ourselves, this is who I am. And then we force that idea on other people. This is who I am. When, I don't think that we really can choose these things. And the only choice that we really have over like these types of things, even if it is just a perception of who we are, is through our behaviors, through our actions, through how we make people feel. And that does sound kind of woo-woo to me, so it might to you as well. But really think about it. Like, actually think about it, because there's people in my life where just because they have a certain title, because they have a certain salary, they have a certain thing in life, you look up to them. And, and it's fine to have people that you look up to draw inspiration from or motivation from or to get advice from, whatever it is. But I think a lot of the time we, if somebody is a journeyman, if somebody's a black belt, if somebody is like this thing or this, that, or whatever, it's very easy for, maybe on a TV show, maybe they do a cool job that you've always, like, they're a firefighter, they're a police officer, they're somebody that you look up to. That doesn't mean every single person, just because they have that part of them that you think about that, oh, that's their identity. It doesn't mean they're without flaw, or that could be stripped from them, or there's I'm trying to think about the way to word this, but when you realize it with other people, what you think of them isn't actually who they are. It's easier to tell who they are based off of, like I said, how they make you feel. Do they impact your life in a positive way? Not, do they hold this title? Do they do this thing? More like, wow, he actually just makes me feel like shit every time I see him. And maybe ask yourself why that is. Is it something to do with them, or is it something to do with you? Is there something deep inside of you that is already feeling like shit and they just bring awareness to it? Or is this person just like a negative fucking person? And I don't care how they call, like, what they call themselves or who they say they are and how good of a guy they make themselves to be. It's like, if you're not actually going out and making a positive impact on the world and the people around you, that's who you are. That's what you're practicing being on a daily basis. You could claim to be whatever you want to claim to be, but if you're not actually fulfilling that on a daily basis, that's not who you are. Even if you pretend it around some people, you're still going to have this inkling within yourself of like, oh, I'm a phony, I'm a fraud. So even if you can go out and maintain it and save face, when you go out in public, oh, this is who I am. I'm a generous guy. Deep down in your heart, what you do when no one else is looking, what you practice on a daily basis, that truly is who you are. And I think that's why a lot of people feel this kind of imposter syndrome and anxiety and stress when they go out in public, because they have this identity of who they think they should show up as, who they think they should be, who they think they really are. And then there's who they really are. They want to act like this, but they're not. They're and it's not to say that they couldn't be, but it's just that their daily behaviors and actions don't align with who they think they are. And so I think that's why we have to be very careful when we are rooting ourselves in these kind of these identities and these I guess just ways of thinking about who we really are. And I guess that if you're going to attach yourself to something like that, you should really ask yourself, does my behavior, does it really align with who I think I am? And that's not to go on about this whole idiocracy or crazy stuff that's going on now with what people identify with and politics and all that madness. I'm talking about who you actually think you are on a deeper basis. And so On that note, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. It is a beautiful Monday morning. Let's have a great week. I'll see you guys next Monday. Much love. Peace out. Love you all. Bye.